In today's video, I'm going to be sharing some tips on how you can add leaves to your flowers without them feeling like they're disconnected. I'm going to help you know some little tricks to try so that all of your leaves and flowers feel connected and part of the same composition. So first, I'm going to paint some flowers. I'm just going to do some simple roses here. Now all the products that I'm using, I will have linked down in the description box below. Now one tip for adding leaves into your composition is that you really want to make sure that your flowers are closer together than what you think. You don't want them to be necessarily touching. You want a little bit of that defining white space in there. You don't want floating flowers just off by themselves. You want them to all feel a kind of part of the same painting. So if you can, try to keep them all pretty close together. That's just going to make your life easier when you go to add leaves later on. See how I left just the tiniest little bit of white space right there? That's going to help separate those two flowers. Okay, now we're going to start adding in those leaves. There are two really big kind of clues to help you know where to add in your leaves. The first one is you really want to pay attention to where the center of your composition is. So in this case, it's like right here. And all of my leaves, I'm going to try and point those back to that point. The other little clue is see where the center of each flower is. So that's going to help us kind of figure out where we're going to add in our our leaves. So first I'm going to add kind of 3 different groupings of leaves. And the first one is going to be coming out from this rose right here. Now I'm going to try and get them to point as close to this center point as possible. So I'm going to kind of start it out this way. And I'm also going to add a leaf up this way. But notice I'm still curving it back to that center point. So that's all I'm going to add there. Now down here, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to pay attention to where that center of the composition is. And I always like to add, not always, but most of the time I like to add 2 leaves next to each other, just so that I don't have any kind of floating off by themselves. Now here, where there's a little bit more white space, all I'm going to do is add a stem. Just a tiny little stem. That's going to help kind of connect those without having to do much of anything else. I have a couple options here. I can add leaves up here, or I can add leaves down here. I kind of want to add them down here just because I think that'll be a little bit more tricky, and I'll show you how I would kind of go about doing that. So I'm paying attention to where the center of my composition is. Right here, I'm going to build a stem up and then have it kind of run underneath that petal and come back down. So even though the leaf is going to be pointing down this way, I've got that stem that's guiding my eye back to that center point. And same with this right here. Whoops. That happens sometimes. So even though these are pointing down, they're kind of pointing toward the center of my rose, but then or my anemone, whatever this is going to be, daisy. But I've also got that stem that's pointing back toward the center so that it still kind of feels all connected. Now this is the same rules apply when I'm adding in like little sprigs or anything like that. I just want them to all point back to that center point. I hope you found those little tips helpful. If you did, please leave a comment down below and let me know. And then be sure to subscribe to this channel if you want more videos like this. Next week, I'm going to be sharing some simple paintings to put on the front of some watercolor thank you cards just in time for Thanksgiving. So be sure to join me next week. Thanks again for watching. Bye!